These comic books are not what they seem. And that's a good thing, because I couldn't afford them if they were. These are not the incredibly valuable key comic book issues in comic book history. They are facsimile editions, and they are my new jam. We're going to take a look at them today on Hi, I'm Walt. Now, this is my channel of comics. Today, comics close-up facsimile editions. They are the incredibly cool replicas and reprints, almost exact, of amazing comic books from the Golden Age, Silver Age, and even the Bronze Age. I acquired them at local comic shops recently, a couple of eBay purchases. I've got 11 of them. I don't know which one I love more. We're going to take them over to the table and look at them closely, and I hope you will dig them the way I do. I'll talk about them as I go. They're in no particular order, and though they are facsimile editions, the joy I get from seeing them is real. First up, a brand new facsimile edition of X-Men number 4, originally published in March 1964 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, inks by Paul Reinman, as Stan and Jack were inventing the Marvel Universe. First appearance of Scarlet Witch, there she is. First appearance of Quicksilver, the Toad. Oh, how sad. This is some powerful, highly influential Lee and Kirby work as the original X-Men battled Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Beautiful book, X-Men 4. Next up, from the Bronze Age, Conan the Barbarian, number 1 facsimile edition, also brand new, written by Roy Thomas, starting a long run on Conan, and art by Barry Windsor-Smith. Relatively new to Marvel, established Conan with a dynamic passion for the character. Wasn't an obvious choice to have Barry Windsor-Smith. That's Dan Adkins inking, by the way, and of course the art blew our minds. Smith got better and better with every issue. His art on these first Conans is treasured by generations. And if you know just 10 people, you can make a lot of money on that back cover ad. Conan the Barbarian, number 1. Next up, another bronze. Tomb of Dracula, number 1. Originally published in March 1972. I bought this off the stands. The original book, that is. There it is, Gene Colan, pencils and inks, as we establish Dracula as an ongoing Marvel villain, hero, anti-hero, and we establish a lot of the supporting characters we would see in this long run. Script by Marv Wolfman. They're a great team on the horror books like Tomb of Dracula. It's wonderful to see it again and to see that fat track ad. Just kidding. Tomb of Dracula, number 1. Okay, here comes one of my favorite comics of all time, Batman 232 by Denny O'Neils and Neal Adams. That is Ra's al Ghul. That is the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul in the Batman series. This is an incredible book. Probably my favorite Batman comic of all time. The story, the art. What's at stake is the fate of Robin, imprisoned by this guy. That's his first appearance, those 2 panels. There's even a cool origin story flashback. Wish I'd kept my original copy. Tickled to have facsimile. Look at that. And of course, these facsimile editions have the original letter columns. You can be a pilot if you fly the new Hotbirds. That's Batman with Robin, number 232. That's, by the way, June 1971. We cut to 1982, March. Daredevil 181, Facsimile Edition. This was a double-sized, very special comic in the incredible hands of Frank Miller, who wrote and drew this incredible run on Daredevil with Elektra. It's no secret that this issue is the death of Elektra, but we won't talk about that. We will say that these two guys might have had something to do with it. Frank Miller, innovation on every page, the layouts, the action, the momentum. One of the highlights of a beloved run, and a double issue to boot. Next, a new facsimile edition of Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, originally published in December 1976. Bought that one off the stands as well. Marvel decided that Spider-Man was selling so well, they needed a companion book to Amazing Spider-Man. The team on this is Gerry Conway as writer and editor, and Sal Buscema as the artist. And Spider-Man fights the tarantula in a very nice launch book. I mean, look who's smiling now. That's Peter Parker, number 1. Next, Sandman. Ho ho! Facsimile edition of issue number 1, published in 1989, March of 1989. This was the start of an amazing run by Neal Gaiman on his reinvention of the Golden Age Sandman as this guy. That's Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg on the art. Pow! He emerges. What a run this was, with classic rock as well. That's Sandman, number 1. Next, some real time travel. A new facsimile edition of the first issue of Marvel Family from 1945. Character owned by DC now, which published this facsimile edition. Owned by Fawcett then. First appearance of Black Adam. Black Adam. Now a major motion picture, you may have noticed. Black Adam has a long history in the Captain Marvel books. This is groundbreaking work by C.C. Beck and Otto Binder. There's even a baby Marvel in this first issue. Great house ad. Go get it. It's on the newsstands now. That's Marvel Family, number 1. Next, here's a book you may have heard of, Amazing Spider-Man. Little known character, but beloved by a few. Just kidding. This is March 1963. Stan Lee, Steve Ditko in Spidey's first solo title after that appearance in Amazing Fantasy 15. Look at that. Fantastic. The action, the pathos. The paper stock on these Marvel books is a white offset. I don't care for it. Those DC books have newsprint. Still a glorious book. Amazing Spider-Man 1. And speaking of solo books, from June 1938, Superman number 1. There it is. It's relatively new. You can still get it at local comic shops. It was Superman's first solo book after his appearances in Action Comics. Gerry Seigel and Joe Shuster. Have I mentioned that I love Joe Shuster art? It just makes my brain light up. It's so simple, yet so evocative. And of course, it exploded a lot of 8-year-old brains in the day, established Superman as what? Most widely known superhero in pop culture. Superman of America Club. There's a lot of content in this book. I think it was originally 64 pages. These guys. Oh, look at that pinup. Beautiful, iconic. That's my Superman. And that's my copy of Superman #1. Well, you may have heard of this comic. It's a facsimile of Detective Comics 27. We can't afford this comic. We can afford the Facsimile Edition. Bill Finger script, Bob Kane art, established Batman in our heads and hearts. I love Batman's original look down in my DNA, don't you? Oh yeah. Wow, sock. Now, this detective has other features. Batman was just, what, the first 11 pages? Buck Marshall. Look at the 2-color. And the 8-panel grid. These backup stories are worth a read. And I will be doing so. Whoa, look at that. This is March 1939. Did I mention that? Can you imagine buying this off of the newsstand? One of the most collectible and valuable comics of all time. Detective Comics 27. Rivaled in value and importance only by this. Action Comics #1, cover dated June 1938. The very first appearance of Superman. By Gerry Seigel and Joe Shuster. Look at this Superman. He couldn't do everything back then, but he was super strong and oh so cool. But look at that. You needn't be afraid of me. I won't harm you. Golly, I love that look. A lot of backup features in Action 1 as well. Funny, they didn't quite take off at the level of Superman. The paper stock on these DC facsimiles is newsprint, by the way. I like it a lot better, but it doesn't hold up as well over time, I'm told by dealers. Action Comics #1 changed the course of comics, changed the course of pop culture. To all these books, I say, bravo. Well, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed looking at my facsimile editions. Back in the bags and boards they need to go. I suggest you do the same if you have them. Maybe they'll increase in value. Maybe not. Right now, you can get them pretty much all at cover price. Go get yourself some. As you can see, I could talk about these facsimile editions a lot more. Instead, let's take the conversation to the comments. Comment. Do you have facsimile editions? Which ones do you have? What are your observations? And while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to my channel? I'm going to have more comic book close-ups, more comic content of every kind. Making comics, writing comics, collecting comics, loving comics. I'm Walt now, wishing you a comic day.